Om Sai Ram. Chapter 4. Sai Baba's first advent in Shiridi. Mission of the Saints. Shiridi, a holy Tirth. Personality of Sai Baba. Dictum of Goulibua. Appearance of Vitthal. Kshirasagar story. Das Ghanu's bath in Prayag. Immaculate conception of Sai Baba and his first advent in Shiridi. 3 Wadas. In the last chapter, I described the circumstances which led me to write Sai Satcharita. Let me now describe the first advent of Sai Baba in Shiridi. Mission of the Saints. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, 7, 8 that whenever there is a decay of dharma, righteousness, and an ascendancy of unrighteousness, I manifest myself for the protection of the virtuous and the destruction of the vicious, and for the establishment of righteousness, I manifest myself age after age. This is the mission of Lord and the sages and saints who are his representatives and who appear at appropriate times and work in their own way to fulfill that mission. For instance, when the twice born, that is, the Brahmins, the Kshatriyas, and the Vaishyas, neglect their duties, and when the Sudras try to usurp the duties of other classes, when spiritual preceptors are not respected but humiliated, when nobody cares for religious instructions, when everybody thinks himself very learned, when people begin to partake of forbidden foods and intoxicating drinks, when under the cloak of religion people indulge in malpractices, when people belonging to different sects fight amongst themselves, when Brahmins fail to do Sandhya adoration and the Orthodox leave their religious practices, when yogis neglect their meditation, when people begin to think that wealth, progeny, wife are their sole concern and thus turn away from the true path of salvation, then saints appear and try to set matters at right path by their words and action. They serve us as a beacon lights and show us the path and the right way for us to follow. In this way, many saints, that is, Nivrutti, Dhyandev, Muktabai, Namdev, Gora, Gonaya, Eknath, Tukaram, Narhari, Narsibua, Sajan Kasai, Savata, Ramdas, and various others did appear at various times to show the right path to the people. And so, the present advent came as Shri Sai Baba of Shiridi. Shiridi, a holy Tirth. The banks of the Godavari river in the Ahmednagar district are very fortunate, for they gave birth and refuge to many saints, prominent amongst them being Dhyaneshwar. Shiridi also falls in the Kopargaon Taluka or the Ahmednagar district. After crossing the Godavari river at Kopargaon, one gets the way to Shiridi. When you go 3 kos, that is 9 miles, you come to Nimgaon, from where Shiridi is visible. Shiridi is as famous and well known as other holy places like Gangapur, Narsimhwadi, Adumbar on the banks of the Krishna river. As the devotee Damoji flourished and blessed Mangala Vedha near Pandarpur, as Samarth Ramdas at Sajjangarh, as Sri Narsimha Saraswati at Saraswati Vada, so Sainath flourished at Shiridi and blessed it. Personality of Sai Baba. It is on account of Shri Sai Baba that Shiridi grew into importance. Let us see what sort of a personage Sai Baba was. He conquered this sansar, worldly existence, which is very difficult and hard to cross. Peace or mental calm was his ornament, and he was the repository of wisdom. He was the home of Vaishnava devotees, most generous like Karna, amongst all the quiet essence of essences. He had no love for perishable things and was always engrossed in self-realization, which was his sole concern. He felt no pleasure in the things of this world or of the world beyond. His antarang was as clear as a mirror, and his speech always rained nectar. The rich or poor people were the same to him. He neither knew nor cared for honor or dishonor. He was a lord of all beings. He spoke freely and mixed with all people, watched the actings and dances of nautch girls, and heard ghazal songs. Still, he swerved not an inch from samadhi, that is, mental equilibrium. The name of Allah was always on his lips. While the world awoke, he slept, and while the world slept, he was vigilant. His abdomen, that is inside, was as calm as a deep sea. His ashram could not be determined, nor his actions could be definitely determined. And though he lived in one place, he knew all the transactions of the world. His darbar was imposing. He told daily hundreds of stories, still he swerved not an inch from his vow of silence. He always leaned against the wall in the masjid or walked morning, noon, and evening towards Lendi, Nala, and Chavdi. Still, he at all times abided in the self. Though a Siddhya, he acted like Sadhaka. He was meek, humble, and egoless, and pleased all. Such was Sai Baba, and as the soil of Shiridi was trodden by the Sai Baba's feet, it attained extraordinary importance. As Dhyaneshwar elevated Alandi, Eknath did to Python, so Sai Baba raised Shiridi. Blessed are the grass, leaves, and stones of Shiridi, for they could kiss the holy feet of Sai Baba and take his dust on his head. Shiridi became to us devotees another Pandharpur, Jagannath, Dwarka, Benares, and Rameshwar, Bhadri, Kedar, Nasik, Trayambakeshwar, Mahakaleshwar, Mahabaleshwar, Gokarna. Contact of Sai Baba in Shiridi was like our study of Veda and Tantra. It quietened our sansar, that is worldly consciousness, and rendered self-realization. The darshan of Shri Sai was our yoga sadhana, and talk with him removed our sins. Shampooing his legs was our bath in Triveni Prayag, and drinking the holy water of his feet destroyed our sins. To us, his commands were Vedas, and accepting and eating the udi, the sacred ashes, and prasad was all purifying. He was our Sri Krishna and Sri Rama who gave us solace, and he was our Parabrahma, absolute reality. He was himself beyond the pair of Dvandavas, opposites, never dejected nor elated. He was always engrossed in his self as existence, knowledge, and bliss. Shirdi was his center, but his field of action extended far beyond to Punjab, Calcutta, North India, Gujarat, Dhaka, now in Bangladesh, and Konkan. Thus, the fame of Sai Baba spread far and wide, and people from all parts came to take his darshan and be blessed. By mere darshan, minds of people, whether pure or impure, would become quiet at once. They got here the same unparalleled joy that devotees get at Pandharpur by seeing Vitthal Rukmai. This is not an exaggeration. Consider what a devotee says in this respect. Dictum of Goulibua. An old devotee by name Goulibua, aged about 95 years, was a Varkari of Pandari. He stayed 8 months at Pandharpur and 4 months, Ashad to Kartik, that is July to November, on the banks of the Ganges. He had an ass with him for carrying his luggage and a disciple as his companion. Every year he made his wari or trip to Pandharpur and came to Shiridi to see Sai Baba, whom he loved most. He used to stare at Baba and say, "This is Pandarinath Vitthal incarnate, the merciful Lord of the poor and helpless." This Goulibua was an old devotee of Vithoba and had made many trips to Pandari, and he testified that Sai Baba was his real Pandarinath. Vitthal himself appeared. Sai Baba was very fond of remembering and singing God's name. He always uttered Allah Malik, God is Lord, and in his presence made others sing God's name continuously, day and night, for all 7 days a week. This is called Nam Saptaha. Once he asked Das Ghanu Maharaj to do the Nam Saptaha. He replied that he would do it, provided he was assured that Vitthal would appear at the end of the 7th day. Then Baba, placing his hand on his chest, assured him that certainly Vitthal would appear, but for that the devotee must be earnest and devout. The Danakpuri Thakur of Dhakurnath, the Pandari of Vitthal, the Dwarka of Ranchod, Krishna, is here, that is in Shiridi. One need not go far and out to see Dwarka. Will Vitthal come from here, from some outside place? Here, he is here. Only when the devotee is bursting with love and devotion, Vitthal will manifest himself here in Shiridi. After the Saptah was over, Vitthal did manifest himself in the following manner. Kaka Sahib Dikshit was as usual sitting in meditation after the bath, and he saw Vitthal in a vision. When he went at noon for Baba's darshan, Baba asked him point blank, "Did Vitthal Patil come? Did you see him? He is a very truant fellow. Catch him firmly. Otherwise, he will escape even if you are little inattentive." This happened in the morning, and at noon there was another Vitthal darshan. One hawker came there for selling 25 to 30 pictures of Vithoba. This picture exactly tallied with the figure that appeared at Kaka Sahib's vision. On seeing this and remembering Baba's words, Kaka Sahib Dikshit was much surprised and delighted. He bought one picture of Vithoba and placed it in his shrine of worship. Bhagwant Rao Kshirasagar's story. How fond was Baba for Vitthal worship was illustrated in Bhagwant Rao Kshirasagar's story. The father of Bhagwant Rao was a devotee of Vithoba and used to make varis, that is, annual trips to Pandharpur. He also had an image of Vithoba at home, which he worshipped. After his death, the son stopped everything, the vari, the worship, and the Shraddha ceremony, etc. When Bhagwant Rao came to Shiridi, Baba, on remembering his father, at once said, "His father was my friend, so I dragged him, the son, here. He never offered Naivedya, offering of food, and so he starved me and Vitthal. So I brought him here. I shall remonstrate him now and set him to worship." Das Ghanu's bath in Prayag. The Hindus think that a bath in the holy Tirth of Prayag, where the Ganga and Yamuna meet, is very meritorious, and thousands of pilgrims go there at periodical times. So, to have the sacred bath there. Once Das Ghanu thought that he should go to Prayag for a bath and came to Baba to get his permission for doing so. Baba replied to him, "Is it not necessary to go far? Our Prayag is here, believe me." Then, wonders of wonders, when Das Ghanu placed his head on Baba's feet, out flowed streams of Ganga Yamuna water from both the toes of Baba. Seeing this miracle, Das Ghanu was overwhelmed with feelings of love and adoration and was full of tears. Inwardly, he felt inspired, and his speech burst forth into a song in praise of Baba and his Leelas. Immaculate Conception of Sai Baba and his first advent in Shiridi. Nobody knew parents' birth or birthplace of Sai Baba. Many inquiries were made, many questions were put to Baba and others regarding these items, but no satisfactory answer or information has yet been obtained. Practically, we know nothing about these matters. Namdev and Kabir were not born like ordinary mortals. They were found as infants in mother of pearls. Namdev being found on the bank Bhimrati river by Gonaya and Kabir on the bank Bhagirathi river by Tamal. Similar was the case of Sai Baba. He first manifested himself as a young lad of 16 years under a neem tree in Shiridi for the sake of bhaktas. Even then he seemed to be full with knowledge of Brahma. He had no desire for worldly objects even in dream. He kicked out Maya and Mukti, was serving at his feet. One old woman of Shiridi, the mother of Nana Chopdar, described him thus. This young lad, fair, smart and very handsome, was first seen under the neem tree, seated in an asan. The people of the village were wonderstruck to see such a young lad practicing hard penance, not minding heat and cold. By day he associated with none, by night he was afraid of nobody. People were wondering and asking, whence this young chap has turned up? His form and features were so beautiful that a mere look endeared him to all. He went to nobody's doors, always sat near the neem tree. Outwardly, he looked very young, but by his action, he was really a great soul. He was the embodiment of dispassion and was an enigma to all. One day, it so happened that God Kandoba possessed the body of some devotee and people began to ask him, Deva, you please inquire what blessed father's son is this lad and whence did he come? God Kandoba asked them to bring a pickaxe and dig in a particular place. When it was dug, bricks were found underneath a flat stone. When the stone was removed, a corridor was seen, in which 4 samais were burning. The corridor led to a cellar where cow-mouth-shaped structures, wooden boards, rosaries were seen. Khandoba said, this lad practiced penance here for 12 years. Then the people began to question the lad about this. He put them off the scene by telling them that this was his guru's place, his holy watan, and requested him to guard this well. The people then closed the corridor as before, and Aswatthana and Adumbar trees were held sacred. Baba regarded this neem tree equally sacred and loved it most. Mal Sapti and other Shiridi devotees regard this site as a resting place, Samadhi Sthan of Baba's Guru, and prostrate before it. 3 Wadas. The first one, the site with the neem tree and surrounding space was bought by Mr. Hari Vinayak Sathe, and on this site a big building styled Sathe's Wada was erected. This Wada was the sole resting place for pilgrims who flocked there. A par, that is a platform, was built round the neem tree and lofts with steps were constructed. Under the steps there is a niche facing south and devotees sit on the platform facing north. It is believed that he who burns incense there on Thursdays and Fridays evenings will by God's grace be happy. This Vada was old and dilapidated and needed repairs. The necessary repairs, additions and alterations have been made now by the Sansthan. Number 2. Then, after some years, another Vada, that is Dikshit Vada, was constructed. Kaka Sahib Dikshit, solicitor of Mumbai, had gone to England. He had injured his leg in an accident there. The injury could not be got rid by any means. Nana Sahib Chandorkar advised him to see Sai Baba. So, he went to Sai Baba in 1909 and requested him to cure the lameness of his mind rather than that of his leg. He was so much pleased with the darshan of Sai Baba that he decided to reside in Shiridi. So he built a Vada for himself and other devotees. The foundation of this building was laid in 10th December 1910. On this day, two other important events took place. Number 1. Dr. Mr. Dada Saheb Khaparde was given permission to return home, and number 2, the night aarti at Chavdi was started. The Vada was completed and was inhabited on the Ram Navami day in 1911 with due rites and formalities. Number 3. Then another Vada or palatial mansion was put up by the famous millionaire Mr. Bhuti of Nagpur. Lots of monies were spent on this building, but all the amount was well utilized, as Sai Baba's body is resting in this Vada, which is now called Samadhi Mandir. The site of this mandir formerly had a garden which was watered and looked after by Baba. 3 Vadas thus came up, where there was none formerly. Of these, Sathe Vada was most useful of all in the early days. The story of the garden, which was attended by Sai Baba with the help of Vaman Tatya, the temporary absence of Sai Baba from Shiridi, and his coming again to Shiridi with the marriage party of Chand Patil, the company of Devi Das, Janki Das, Ganga Gir, Baba's wrestling match with Mohiuddin Tamboli, residing in Masjid, love of Mr. Dengle, and other devotees and other incidents will be described in the next chapter. Bow to Shri Sai Baba, peace to be all.